Well, thank you very much for all the organizers for having me here to share this idea. I'm looking forward to discuss this proposal. So I want to connect this. This is not completely unrelated to the previous presentation by Olaf. I want to say that I agree that neurotechnology is special from an ethical perspective, and that what makes it special is probably this idea related to experimental neuroethics or the neuroscience of ethics, that the combination or the merging of neurotechnology with persons could change very fundamental aspects of personhood, such as self-identity and mental integrity, agency, and so on. So this presentation is related to, is focused on the question of whether it makes sense to talk about hybrid minds from a scientific perspective, specifically from a neuroscience or biological perspective. So it seems that the answer is no, but we will see what happens in the middle. So this proposal is a direct response to a very serious problem posed by this great paper by Christoph Publitz. So the main aspects of the problem is that for the law, the bodies and things are categorically different. Bodies have a much higher value than things, and therefore they have a much stronger protection. So the question is whether things can become body parts. So when a new technology or other medical device is implanted or interacts with a person, we have some reason or a basis for taking it as for changing its ontological and legal status. So from when we try to approach this from a biological perspective, it seems that the obvious response is, of course, not. Biological parts of the body are completely different from artificial devices. The problem is when we try to articulate this traditional or conservative or biological view of bodies, the different criteria that explicitly or implicitly are endorsed and articulated, they face very many different counterexamples. So they fail epically. So we have a first criterion, which is the skin boundary view, the view that anything beneath the skin is part of the body, anything outside of it is not. It's a nice idea, but then we have counterexamples like a ballet inside my body. It is inside the skin, but it's not part of the body, probably because it is not made from biological material. It is not made from flesh, bones, and blood. Therefore, perhaps a better criterion is biological materiality. Anything made of biological material is part of the body. Anything that is not, like the ballet, will not be part of the body. But then we again have many counterexamples. For instance, we want to consider dental implants as part of the body. Why? Well, perhaps because they are attached to the body, unlike my clothes or glasses, and so on. So then we have a third view, which is the degree of attachment view, according to which only things that are attached somehow to the physical structures of my body are part of it, otherwise they aren't. But again, there you have many counterexamples of things that are surgically attached to the body, but we will be reluctant to consider them as body parts. So the biological view seems to fail, and then we have the hybrid view, which provides some criteria. This is widely held in the philosophical domain. Many philosophers hold some version of this extended mind thesis. I will talk here about a particular view that Chris develops in the paper I mentioned, which is the extended body thesis. But the idea is the same. Basically, if an artifact contributes to a fundamental or basic function of the body, then it should be considered legally as part of the body. No? So this immediately allows for many things to turn into body parts. Anything, glasses, canes, ventilators, and other things can easily become parts of the body. This is a very interesting philosophical view, but I'm very convinced by Chris' arguments that trying to implement this view in any legal system could be a disaster. So there are many problems that would result from trying to implement an extended mind view or extended body view to a given legal system. So I will not go into the details of all the problems that arise. I encourage you to read Chris' paper, which he describes with many detail many of the problematic issues that could result from allowing this massive possibility of turning many things into body parts. So I can mention only one example. For instance, if a ventilator that is being used by a patient is part of his or her body, then in a triage situation, we wouldn't be legally allowed to give that ventilator to another patient. So, and that's just one example. Then we have the problem of fragmented bodies. If detachable prosthetic legs or arms are part of the body, then if I find a detached prosthetic leg, I will not know whether it is a body part or not, because I don't know if it has an owner. Therefore, I don't know whether I can touch it, or if I am legally allowed to touch it. And so there are a lot of ambiguous situations and problematic situations that are support the idea that perhaps an extended body or extended mind thesis would be very problematic from a legal perspective. So, but this is a problem. I think this is why this situation is very problematic, because so I agree that this naturalistic approach, this biological approach, is the best option we have for legally defining the distinction between things and body parts. However, as we saw, most biological criteria are problematic, and we have reasons, positive reasons to change the boundaries or to allow for a more permissive distinction between body parts and things. So the question is, can we accept the biological view for practical reasons while we recognize that it is theoretically groundless? And as an analogy, I think about accepting a conservative or a revisionist view of gender solely only on the basis of social, political, or legal convenience. So imagine a situation in which probably if you endorse either a conservative or either a revisionist view of gender, you do so on the basis of theoretical reasons. So if in your country, your legal system endorses or adopts some view that it is opposed to your own view, only for social, political, or legal reasons, I think that we would regard that as problematic. So I wouldn't be comfortable with having only social, political, or legal reasons for rejecting the possibility of hybrid bodies or hybrid minds. So I think that the better option is just come up with a better biological theory. And I think that this is the case we can use for that autopoietic theory, which is a theory that, as was mentioned, was originally developed by Humberto Maturana and Francisco Varela, which were two great Chilean biologists. Anyone doing neuroscience or biology in Chile is under the influence of these people. And they somehow implement some of the main ideas. And there are current versions of this theory. Some of my co-authors is one autopoietic theorist. So the main idea of this theory is very simple. So the theory says that it's a biological theory that says that living beings are autopoietic bodies in its current formulation. So the main two notions is the notion of body and the notion of autopoiesis. The notion of body is simply, a body is a physical system or a set of physical components that resists the entropic tendency to diffusion or disaggregation. So it's something that a set of components whose physical forces resist entropy or disintegration. An autopoietic system is a body that resists the disintegration through the continuous production of its own components. So through its self-production. That is what the essence of living beings is, basically. So we resist disaggregation, we resist entropy, in part through the production, through the production of our own body components. That's a very simple, intuitive, I think, idea. And that idea, the theory is much more complex, but that basic idea already give us tools to block all the problematic implications of the alternative biological theories. For instance, biological materiality, autopoiesis that does not presuppose any kind of physical structures, such as carbon-based structures. So if you can be an autopoietic body and not be based on a chemical composition very different from ours regarding the skin boundary and the degree of attachment views. If anything is inside your body or attached to your body, but is not implicated in any way in the self-production of the body, then probably it's not part of the body. So you can block all those three implications using this simple idea. So it seems that this is it. So we have a good biological theory who tell us what's the clear difference between devices and bodies. So we won the battle, but no, it's not so easy. So this problem is very complicated, and autopoietic theory is complicated. So what's the problem? The problem is that autopoietic theory is a theoretical identity thesis. The main thesis is a theoretical identity thesis. This, in philosophy of science, it means something like that the theory is only describing the essence, metaphorically speaking, of living beings, which means that all living beings are autopoietic bodies, but inside living beings, many other things are happening that are different from autopoiesis. So you have many non-autopoietic processes, such as gas exchange, ion transportation, temperature regulation, which are vital processes, but not productive processes. And also, you have many body parts that are not produced by the body. For instance, enzyme cofactors such as zinc, iron, magnesium, and other minerals are not produced by the body. They are incorporated from the environment, and they work as, they are involved in the production of the body, but are not produced by the body. So we have an unexpected result, which is what I think is the best biological theory we have to define the body. It's consistent with things that are not that are devices, that are things that are not made by the body, are not involved in the chemical production of the body, can be part of the body, because we have traditional body parts that also don't satisfy those conditions. So does it mean that autopoietic theory is blind to the distinction between things and body parts, so that we cannot use it as a criterion for distinguishing between these two categories? So I think that not, but the theory needs a more nuanced application. So this is our proposal. We think that being part of the body is a spectrum. So autopoietic bodies can be, being an autopoietic body is a core feature of ourselves as living beings. And any living thing can have a higher or lower degree of bodiliness regarding how close it is to this core. So, and how we make this idea more concrete? Well, basically, we discomposed autopoietic theory, the main thesis, into 5 conditions. And we defined, we will distinguish between different degrees of bodiliness for any given thing, depending on how many of these conditions this thing satisfies. So these are, I don't know, yes, it's you can see them. Those are the 5 conditions. The first 2 are the active and passive aspects of autopoiesis. So condition 1 is being produced by the body. Condition 1 is producing parts of the body. Condition 2 is being produced by the body. And conditions 3 and 4 are related to the physical integration part of the autopoietic theory. So condition 3 is participating in the integration of the body, the skeleton, muscles, tendons, all the structures that are in charge of preserving the physical integration of the body. And 4 is a condition of being integrated by the body. The kidneys, the heart, the lungs, body organs that are not participate directly in the integration of the body, but are integrated by the body. And condition 5 is being an enabler, a necessary condition for 1 or 3. Basically being a necessary condition or an enabler of autopoiesis or physical integration. So those are the 5 elements in which we decompose the main idea behind autopoietic theory. And we will count the satisfaction of each criterion as 1 point. So when you look at traditional body parts, you see that all of them satisfy 2 or more criteria. They have 2 or more bodiliness points. So we set a bodiliness threshold on 2 points. So anything with 2 or more points is part of the body, and anything below that threshold is not part of the body, is not protected by bodily integrity. So I don't know if you can see that. That's like a table that shows a small part of the analysis of cases that we did with these criteria. But the happy result is that many of the things that I don't want to consider as part of the body, such as the ballet, the earrings, optic lenses, wheelchair, and many other devices are not part of the body. So because they have 0 or 1 point, they don't reach this threshold. And then you have all the traditional part component mechanisms of the body, and you have a very restricted set of medical devices that satisfy the condition. So you have there a pacemaker, prosthetic femur, the dental implant that we wanted to consider as part of the body, and some other, but it is a very restrictive set of devices. There you have a nicer representation of the idea. The red circle is represents the boundary of bodily integrity. Therefore, inside the circle, you have all the traditional body parts and also some restricted set of devices. So I think our proposal allows for a restricted form of hybrid bodies, but what about hybrid minds? So let's say something about the non-hybrid mind. The non-hybrid mind, the brain, is it protected by body integrity according to our view? Well, this is a little bit problematic because the function of the brain is not autopoiesis. It's one organ is not dedicated to autopoiesis. However, in living beings like us that need to, for autopoietic, we are exo-autopoietic entities. That means that for autopoiesis, we need to incorporate matter and energy from the environment. So this would be impossible without sensory motor and cognitive capacities. So neurocognitive mechanisms are enablers of autopoiesis. They have 1 point. They are produced by the body. They have 2 points, and they also are contained or integrated by the body. So they have 3 points of bodiliness. They are protected by bodily integrity. So, but what about the hybrid mind? What about the mind plus neurotechnology? So there are 2 key distinctions for assessing whether new technologies are part of the mind, which is the medical, non-medical distinction and the invasive, non-invasive distinction. medical devices, we understand them as restoring or supporting a function of the body. Being invasive means being as a result of a surgical procedure, being integrated into the physical structures of the body. Therefore, if you are a medical technology, you have 1 point because you are an enabler of autopoiesis. If you are integrated to the physical structure of the body, you have another point because you satisfy condition 4. This means that only technologies that are both medical and invasive should be considered as parts of the body according to our view. All other neurotechnology, well, if you are not invasive or medical or neither, then you won't be considered as protected by bodily integrity. So again, a very restrictive view of what kind of technology we should consider as part of the person. So conclusion is that our proposal can ground some hybridization claims made in controversial cases, such as the widely discussed case of Rita Leggett. However, it offers a very restrictive account of hybridization. Therefore, it could mitigate concerns about legal innovation. So, because it would be very little innovation in this, I think. And also, finally, it provides a robust basis for consensus because unlike the other biological theories that are very bad, I think this view would be based on a theoretically sound biological theory, which I think is autopoietic theory. So this is our team. Mario Villalobos, which is the autopoiesis expert, Jorge Fuentes, a colleague, and myself. So, thank you.